A long time ago, when I was much younger, perhaps around the age of 12 or so, I discovered Mad magazine. Like most people who enjoyed reading each issue, I was attracted to its uniquely offbeat and satirical humor. One of the features that I enjoyed reading most in Mad was called Spy vs. Spy, which was a comic strip about, you guessed it, two spies perpetually at war with each other. One spy was dressed in all white, the other in all black, and the two would devise various booby-traps to harm the other and to win that particular encounter. The catch, though, is that neither spy could usually get more than one victory in a row over the other before he himself suffered a defeat. Sometimes both spies would win and sometimes both spies would lose, but rarely would one win twice in a row, and if he did, he would then probably lose twice in a row. And that was the whole point. Neither spy could ever truly vanquish the other. No matter how committed each one was to hurting the other, it was all essentially meaningless in the end. It was all in vain, and no one would ever win. Spy vs. Spy was created by Antonio Porhias and debuted in the January 1961 issue of Mad magazine. Porhias had been a prolific cartoonist in Cuba, known for political satire, and had fled to the United States on May 1st, 1960, just 3 days before Castro's government nationalized the last of the Cuban Free Press. Spy vs. Spy was intended to be his parody of the political ideologies of the Cold War. What has recently reminded me of Spy vs. Spy is the reprehensible way we're speaking to each other nowadays, especially to those who we disagree with politically. It's basically hate versus hate, as we hurl invective at those who have different views or simply look different or have a different background. And all this hate versus hate is, in the end, not only as fruitless as those spy versus spy combatants demonstrated, but is in fact leading us all down a very dangerous path, one that will not end in a good way for any of us. Hate is a very powerful and very dangerous emotion. It brings out the worst in us in just about every way, and is often manifested as anger, jealousy, greed, and other negative emotions. And it's also very addictive. The more we give into these base emotions, the more easily we return to them at the slightest provocation. And social media seems to bring out the hatred even more, allowing us to show a side that we probably wouldn't expose in real life. YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and the others are simply loaded with hateful rhetoric that the left aims at the right, that the right aims at the left. It's hate versus hate, but none of us really win in the end. And I do want to clarify one thing. Even though my channel is about Trump being the Antichrist, I do not hate Trump, nor do I want to sound like I'm encouraging anyone on my channel to hate Trump or Trump supporters. In some of my videos, I've certainly made the mistake of lumping all Trump supporters together and generalizing about how they feel or what they will do. That's something I definitely need to stop doing, and instead focus on how each of us is unique and we're all looking for the path to God's kingdom. Speaking of social media, a few years back I used to habitually comment on political sites like The Hill, Politico, Mediaite, among others, and I would inevitably find myself arguing with someone I disagreed with. These arguments might last the whole afternoon, but they never really solved anything. Just like the Spy vs. Spy cartoon. They did, however, have the net effect of bringing out the worst in me. I would constantly go for a witty comment to try and make someone look foolish, or simply spend hours arguing in circles as if I was somehow fighting the good fight. In truth, it was all meaningless. I wasn't changing anyone's mind. The only result that I could measure was that I ended up acting immature, argumentative, and even self-righteous. Those are not good traits and not what I want to be. In short, I was being hateful toward others, and I knew I had to change. So what I did about 2 years ago was I canceled my Discuss account, which prevented me from getting into those silly political arguments in the first place. After a few days of withdrawal, I started to feel a bit better by not wallowing in the immaturity I had previously. By not getting involved in those political discussions, I felt less rage inside of me and less of a desire to embrace the negative emotions that would inevitably result. By not leaving comments on political sites, I took a very small step toward turning away from the things of this world and instead began to focus on what really matters. And I suggest that if any of you are getting bogged down in these silly arguments on political sites or any other kind of sites, that you might want to consider leaving it all behind, that you may want to turn away from the pettiness of it all, because you'll feel 100% better once you do. We all need to turn away from this hate versus hate ugliness all around us, because it's leading us down the road to perdition. Let's not even get involved in arguing politics, because the Republicans are not going to save us. The Democrats are not going to save us. Only Jesus can save us. That's all for today, and I'll be back in a few days with another video. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys soon.